Good evening, everyone. You're welcome to today's session, and I think it marks the last session of our marathon session. And it's going to be an interactive session, and I would like you guys to questions which I would expect that I get a response to. So, having created a scientific paper, a scientific work, it will be important for you to communicate your findings, to present a publication. But today we'll be focusing on how to present in a scientific gathering the work you've done. That is talking about abstract presentation. How do you create? How do you present it? Those are the key things we'll be talking about. Of course, within the short minutes we have, we cannot exhaustively discuss you making presentation or creating an abstract, but I'll do as much as possible to ensure that the key things you need to know about presentation will be covered in the presentation. With that, I think we can kick off. So this, just a minute. These are the um, areas we'll be covering, talking about importance of a good slide, how you know your audience, and all of you. Like I said, it's going to be an interactive session, and I'm going to be asking my first question right away. While I was presenting, something changed. Did anybody notice? What's really changed? Anyone? I did something while I was making this presentation. I mean, this outline. Hello?
Right.
Are they allowed to unmute? Okay, yeah.
Yes, sir, they can
Please go
unmute.
ahead.
Yes.
So anyone notice anything while I was doing that presentation?
The font size changed towards the third one to third one.
Come again, please.
The font size and the font size.
Okay, font size, any other thing? Did you notice that my picture came on? Anyone noticed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I'm sure so a couple of people probably did not notice that. The reason will be that you are trying to read along with me this list, which is natural for anyone. Once you have something much on the screen, everybody wants to read what is there compared to what I have as outline, which is just 4 lines. So I just use that to pass a message. I'll still come back to discuss the importance of having it brief. So what we'll be covering of the importance of a good slide, what are the ways you speak in a presentation, what are the rules in producing an engaging slide, and some tips to go home with. Of course, you'll be allowed to ask questions at the end of the day. So one key thing about presentation, about scientific communication generally is that less is more. The less you write, the more you're able to communicate. And I think it's one principle you should take behind you. You should have at your hand that less is more. Avoid overloading your slide or your presentation or trying to put everything across at once. Uh, so what are the types of scientific presentation? There are a couple of scientific presentation. One of it is oral presentation, where you'll be expected to come on stage to present whatever communication you want to do. And this is to say the most prestigious form of presentation in which you have the ability, you have the opportunity to convey your message verbally to the audience. Of course, there is the option of poster presentation, which usually you would design a poster essentially containing the main component of a presentation, the IMRAD as we call it, the introduction, the method, the results, your discussion, your affiliation, your title, the authors, and all of that. All of them presented within a single page. and we have the flash or turbo presentation. And if you go through our YouTube, you see an example of that, which we did when we did our conference earlier this year, where you'll be expected to make presentation within few minutes, talking about 1 or 2 minutes to make a whole presentation. Usually you go key to the key points and pass your message exactly the take home you want the audience to have at the end of the day. So these are the basic type of presentation. Of course, in these days of Zoom and other platform, similar platform, the option of virtual presentation. So you can have virtual oral presentation. And you can actually have e-posters where you don't need to print your posters. So these are basically the way we make presentation of our scientific finding. So before you go ahead to make a presentation, of course, for you to make a presentation, it means you've submitted it to a conference where your initial submission have been accepted for presentation, either as an abstract, either as an oral presentation or as a poster. So when you want to, while you're preparing for the presentation, one of the key questions you ask yourself, why do I really want to present this finding? What is driving this presentation? What is the goal of this presentation? The second thing is, how best can I communicate this information that I want to pass across? Given that I've been given the opportunity to make an oral presentation, what's the best way I'm going to communicate this? Or I've been given the option of a poster abstract. How best will I put together the information I need to pass across? Then you also need to ask yourself, what is one key message I want my audience to go home with? Then you also need to, the last question you ask yourself is, how familiar are you with this subject you are intending to present? It's a given that if you are going to make a presentation on a subject, it's expected that you have some level of familiarity with it. But again, the level of familiarity you have with it also play a role in your preparation. So if it's a presentation you've been doing over and over and over, then the level of preparation we need to make may not be the same as something you are presenting for the first time. So these are key critical questions you are expected to ask yourself as you prepare for the presentation. You need to prepare for any presentation you need to make, whether you are familiar with it or not, whether you've done it 100 times or not, you need to prepare. At every presentation you make, you need to prepare. Even experts in fields still prepare for their presentation. There's always a need for you to prepare. What are the things you are preparing for? One, you need to prepare for the presentation itself. Then you need to prepare to present your presentation. Then you need to prepare for what comes after your presentation. So those are three things you are preparing for. You are preparing the presentation you want to make, be it oral or the poster presentation. Then secondly, you are preparing yourself to be able to deliver the message you intend to deliver in the most appropriate way. Then lastly, also preparing for what follows after your presentation. What do I do after I've made this presentation? So you make preparation for each of these steps. So in terms of preparing your presentation, one key thing I want you to read is this first statement. PowerPoint is PowerPoint. Can anybody explain what I meant by this message? Hello, anyone?
Okay, sir. Can I try?
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir. It means that it's only key points, the important points that are meant to be there.
Exactly. God bless you. So PowerPoint is PowerPoint. Why it's named PowerPoint is the fact that what I expect to present the PowerPoint is just the major point, the highlight, the key points, the most important point. Those are the points that are expected to appear on your PowerPoint. Your PowerPoint is an aid. It's not a lesson note. It's not a class note. Of course, because in our own environment, most times we get taught in class with PowerPoint presentation, so that is overloaded with a lot of information, which essentially is for teaching. You're not making scientific presentation. Your lecturer is using that to teach. Because we come from that background where PowerPoint is used for teaching. When a lot of us try to make PowerPoint presentation to pass message like scientific presentation, we tend to overload our slides with a lot of points, which should not be. The second thing is that you start with a hook, captivate your audience, get the attention of your audience where you are starting. Then you leave them with a good taste. You leave them with something memorable. You leave them asking for more. You don't shouldn't have a presentation that ends abruptly. You should start with a hook that attracts your audience to listen to you, and you should also leave with a good taste. You should also leave a good taste behind. If you are going to take a single message away from this presentation, that message is that the focus is you and the presentation you are making rather than the PowerPoint or the poster you have designed. So if you are making presentation, what is expected is that everything revolves around you, the presenter, and the presentation you are making rather than the PowerPoint or the slides you've made. So as much as possible, you ensure that you carry along your audience so that they are listening to you. They are trying to hear what you have to pass across rather than them trying to read what is on your screen. So you are expected to be the one to tell the story and not your slide. So even as, let's take this slide as an example. Even if my audience intend to read the content of this slide, within the first 2 seconds, they finish reading what is on the slide. So they are left with nothing else than to listen to what I want to pass across. But when I have the slide crowded from top to bottom, they have a lot to read. And it's natural for anyone. Once you see something, you want to read it. It's natural. So if you provide the audience with a lot of things to read, then you're giving them something to focus on rather than your own presentation. So as it is now, you have nothing else to read on my slide than to listen to what I'm communicating. So this is one key message you should go home with. So let's talk about why we should make a good slide. First, it helps you, if you have a good slide, it helps you communicate complex idea clearly. So you're able to break down an idea that is complex in a way that the audience can follow. Then it engages the audience and it helps you to have a good flow of your talk. Like I mentioned earlier, your slide is an aid for your presentation rather than the focus of your presentation. So writing style is important. And why is writing style important? There are some rules about writing style which you need to follow when you're making writing, whether be it oral presentation or a poster presentation. Fonts generally are classified into two types. We have the sans serif. Sans is a French word for without. Serif means stroke. So your fonts that don't have strokes like this are serif fonts. Why those without stroke? You can see this does not have stroke. These are sans serif or without serif. So you can see that this lettering are without stroke compared to this, which are stroke. All of these are stroke. Look at the I, there's stroke. Look at the F, there's stroke here. So when you are writing, preparing your abstracts, be it poster or oral, you are expected to write with sans serif, those without stroke, because it's easier to read compared to those that have stroke this way. The only place where you are expected to use sans serif font is when you are writing title, just as I've demonstrated here. So title, usually you can use serif fonts, but for body of your write-up, you should use sans serif. In terms of your font size, generally most instructions for abstract presentation will give you font size that is expected, especially for poster. But as a rule of thumb, we expect that your title should be large, at least in the range of 44 to 48, or give or take 40 to 48. While the body should be at least 28 or 26 and above. 26 to 24 to 28 in terms of body, while title is usually larger. So the reason is this. The people that are going to be reading your slides, following your slide when you're making presentation, especially when you're making presentation in a large hall, some may be as far as a couple of meters deep from you, so that they will not be able to read tiny prints. So you need to make it large enough for them to be able to read. But it shouldn't be too large that too large that will be so loud and shouting at the audience. So you need to strike a balance. Also, I've put this here to show you how you should not write. This is a different font. This is a different font. This is a different font. So it is expected that I use consistent fonts all through. So I can see there is a hand up. I don't know if it's a question that I need to be attended to now. I think it was Azan. Azan, can you unmute and ask the question? Hello, Azan, are you still on? Okay, let me continue. So, as a rule of thumb, there are different rules. Let me mention that because they are probably going to come across others. But the most common one is 6x6. When you're making a PowerPoint slide, each slide is not expected to have more than 6 bullet points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, when I say rule of thumb, it doesn't mean it must always be like that. But generally, this is what you should aim to achieve. So it should not be more than 6 bullets. Then the number of words per bullet should not be more than 6. Some will say 8x8. But the most common one is 6x6. The essence of this is that you do not put too many words on your slide. If you think that you will need some 8 to be able to make your presentation well, then you can use an option that is on PowerPoint, which is comment notes, where you can have what you want to present, extra information on the notes, while your slide remains precise and concise as you have it here. Now, it's also important that you know your audience, you know the persons you are presenting to, the people you think will be on your audience, and you should present in such a way that you communicate to your audience. If your audience are basic, then you should make your content, the content you are presenting, very simple. If your audience are experts in the field where you are presenting, they should speak at the technicality, at the level of technicality that would, or the level of jargon that would be expected for that type of presentation. Moderation is key. I can't overemphasize that. So each slide is expected to speak to one key area. So, for example, if you are making your presentation, a slide may speak to results, one may speak to discussion of your finding. You should not have a slide speaking to method and abstract and background and method on the same slide. Don't put together too many ideas on a single slide. You are telling a story with your slide, so let the audience be able to know, oh, this is where this presenter is talking. This is what this presenter is talking about at this point. Don't clutter your slides. Limit texts. More than 60% of people are visual learners. So people prefer to learn graphics and images than text, and do well to make use of that as frequent as possible. We've talked about this. Then avoid making slides. I'm sure many of you must have come across this in some presentations. Avoid making slides that has like 50 slides, and then when you are presenting, now say skip, or say next. If you know the slide is not important for the particular presentation, you can delete it, or PowerPoint also has the option of hiding slide, so that you can hide the slide that you don't need for that particular presentation. The words like skip, next are usually makes presentation boring. I can't overemphasize the importance of visuals, and we've mentioned it even during the previous classes on the importance of visual. A couple of us must have seen slides in which you have so many figures and data on a slide that you get confused about what exactly the person is speaking about. And sometimes the audience will say, what exactly does this person want me to pick from this slide? So avoid that. Put just the necessary information you want the audience to know on the slide. Color matters, and I will require us to unmute and follow me. Can anyone read what is on this slide, on this box? Anyone? Someone unmute. What is written on this blue screen?
Yes, sir. Can you read this?
Can you read this?
Okay. Okay. What about this? I'm coming. Just a minute. What about this?
Can you read this? It's not clear, but that's what it says.
Okay. All right. Compared to this, is there a
Which one is
difference
color?
between different? Okay. So that's the importance of color. You'll be using colors in your presentation. Some people will tell you that the best color is white and black, but sometimes you want to add some finesse to your presentation. So you may want to use some color. When you are choosing color, ensure that your writing, your font, and the background are contrasting. Don't pick a color just like the first two that makes it difficult for you to read what is on the slide. Then also, I wrote here, consider the 8% colorblind men. I want the guys on this present on the call to read this last one. Any guy?
Yes, sir. Can you read this?
Okay, well, you can read it, but it has been shown that about 8% of men are colorblinded and about 0.5% of women are colorblinded, meaning that there are certain color combinations that people who are colorblinded cannot read. One of which is green and red. Another one is green and brown. If I'm not mistaken, I think another one is blue and purple. There are apps that you can use to check for whether the color you are using is appropriate for people who are color blinded. I can't remember it, but if I come across it, I'm going to share it with you. So basically, there are some colors you should avoid. One of which is green on red or red on green. It's difficult for people who are color blinded. So you should put this into consideration when you are making your design. You are making design of your poster or you are making your slide, so that you don't lose a particular set of people just because of how you make your slide. Now, look at this. This is a no-no in a scientific presentation. Of course, this is just one of flying animations you can see. You can see one coming from down and different places. This is what you should not do. If you must make emphasis, this is an example of what you can do. So, if I want to emphasize these comments, I've used bold animation to make emphasis. So, use animation sparingly. I've allow you to focus on this message I want to pass across. Another thing you can do is change of color. So usually we can change from black to red just to make emphasis as shown in this, or you can lightening a color just to reduce emphasis on that point that you've already made. So these are what you should do with animation, but never the first one that I showed you. So another way of making your slide not so monotonous is this. So I brought back the initial outline that I gave, which was so long, and I suspected many of you were trying to read it. So rather than bring it up at once, I can bring it up in bits, just like I'm doing now. So with this, I can speak to the first two, then talk about the fact that, oh, these are the other things we'll talk about, speak about this, then finally this. So this is more presentable than presenting the whole of these at once. Otherwise, like I mentioned, you are going to lose your audience. Another thing you can do to make emphasis is this. So this is one place you can use flying. So with this, I'm able to show emphasis that this is what I want you to focus on in the whole of this. Other books, I'm sure everybody's attention went to where this red bus is. This is one place you can use a flying animation. So there are just a few places that it's relevant. This is one example of it. Then finally, you finish preparing your slides before you submit it to the conference organizer. Again, there's what we call white, sorry, full name skips me now, but keeping white edge at the edge of your slide is very important. Don't write so that this double is starting from the end of this and it's ending on the other end of it. Always give a space, a margin. You always give a margin to ensure that your right of stands in the middle and not extending to the edges. If you print out your slide or print out your poster, you can have it cut off and all of that. When you're posting your poster, you may have your edges folding away and your audience may not be able to read. So always give that margin. Then if you're having an oral presentation, always have a contingency plan. Your slide may fail, something may just happen. So it's always good to have a backup plan, have a printout that you can use to present, even if your slide fails. You can have your slide on the flash, just in case the one you submit to the presenter, to the conference organizer, is mixed up. So always have a backup plan. Of course, always test your slide presentation. Be sure that your slide presentation is appropriate. All right. So in terms of now preparing for your to present your presentation, of course, you should get to the venue, familiarize yourself with the venue where you're going to be presenting, how the presentation is going to be. Get to the venue where you're going to be. If it's a poster, go to the poster area, see how it looks like, make a mental preparation of what your presentation is going to be like. When you are presenting, avoid using fillers. Fillers are things like okay. I mean, always avoid using those type of words. That will come with practice. So again, it's a bad habit for you to have a presentation and go for a presentation that is to last 5 minutes, and they're already telling you time up while you're just midway between your presentation. Always prepare your presentation to be within the time you want. One of my bosses who I listen to his presentation always say that prepare to use 95% of your time for your presentation, while you use the remaining 5% for contingency plan, just in case you're not able to finish. So plan with 95% of the time. So if you are given 5 minutes, then plan to present 4 minutes. Then transition between slides smoothly. It's not a good practice to transition between slides, saying next. So if I'm making presentation, I can change the slide. Rather say next. I can, when I'm done with this slide, I say, okay, it's time for us to move to the this particular topic. Rather than saying next, always look for a smooth transition between slides. I'm not saying next bad, but when you say next continuously, it becomes monotonous and it's not something you like to do. When you're making rehearsal for your presentation, this is a mistake a lot of people make. They think rehearsing is just about reading their slides. You're expected to rehearse it aloud and try to present as if you are presenting to an audience. What I often do is to use a mirror or present to someone around me. Of course, you should declare your presentation. Then repetition is key. And when we say repetition, so you must have noticed that while I'm making this presentation, I've mentioned about the fact that the focus of making a presentation is you and not the slide. I repeated it on several occasions on different slides. I'm sure that if you're going to take something home, that is the point you're going to take home. So when I was introducing this presentation, I said you should ask yourself, what is the key message you want your audience to take home? Those are the type of things you need to repeat in different form, in different ways. I'm not saying that you should repeat exactly the same word at different points, but continuously find a way of passing that message you want them to go home with. Of course, be interactive. And when you are presenting, especially either oral or slide or poster presentation, maintain eye contact, speak clearly, give a natural gesture. There's nobody that is born a perfect presenter. Everybody learns presentation and improve over time. So everybody gets to get nervous. Even some best presenters or some established presenters, when they get the starting presentation, they may get nervous. So there are ways of handling nervousness. Breathe, use pause, smile, use icebreakers, use responsible jokes that are appropriate for the presentation you are making. There are some presentations you make in which you cannot make joke, but if you can and you feel you are nervous, That may be an appropriate way to manage it. Or look at somebody that is familiar. That may also help you to manage nervousness. And usually it has been shown that usually the nervousness is the first one, first slide or first two slides. Once you get it right in that slide, every other aspect of presentation is smoother. So always perfect your starting point. Once your starting point is appropriate, is good, every other thing is well. And be ready to answer questions. One of the things that keep people nervous is the fact that they are afraid that some questions may come up they may not be able to answer. The truth is that you may not be able to answer all questions, and there are ways to that. You can say that you've got to communicate your answer through email or find a way of provide your contact to pass the further clarification to the audience. Be transparent. Nobody is perfect, so you should not get nervous just because you are afraid of questions you will be asked. So the primary thing about preparing to present is to practice. And you see that on these two slides that I've presented, I've emphasized practicing. So you should not go to make any presentation without practicing. In these days, we now do virtual presentation, and there are some key things I think I should mention about virtual presentation. If you have to do a virtual presentation, you should get the best bandwidth available. It is disrespectful to your audience to want to make a presentation and you're doing it in a place where there's poor bandwidth, or where there's a background noise, or where it's not appropriate for presentation. So just assume that you are doing a presentation, a physical presentation, and prepare for it. Don't be the one that is making a presentation, a science presentation, tying towel for presentation. It can be embarrassing. You never can see what will happen while you're making presentation. Your camera may just focus on your towel. So prepare as if you have a presentation to make physically when you're making presentation. Again, when you're making presentation, you can sit down to make presentation, or you can stand. I have come to realize that it's almost better to stand to make presentation. It gives you that free way. I mean, it's usually easier to communicate well in a presenting standing than when you are sitting. But use the most appropriate opportunity. Use the most appropriate way you have available for you. I'll switch off my video just to show something. The way I put it is not showing what I'm showing, but when I'm making presentation, virtual presentation, your video is on. Ensure that your video, I expect that what I have here is doing it that way. Just a minute. I want to see myself. Yeah. Ensure that you take the center portion of your camera. It shouldn't be to an edge this way I'm presenting, or stay to an edge, or your body is showing and your head is not showing, or just a bit of it is showing, something is cut off. You should stay in such a way that you stay in the center and the camera is capturing you appropriately. Then, if you are in a place where the background is not appropriate, you blur your background. Just like I've done now. Another thing you can do, if there is a background for the presentation, use the background of the presentation of the conference. You use a conference background for your presentation. Of course, if you are in a place where bandwidth is low, then your camera should go off to allow for the bandwidth that is appropriate. Avoid when you're making presentation, asking question, can you hear me? Usually, if you are not being heard, the moderator of the presentation is going to call your attention to you that you can hear me. A lot of people have formed the habit of, can you hear me? Confirm you can hear me. Once you start presentation, you'll be called to make your presentation. Go ahead and start your presentation. If the audience cannot hear you, of course, they will call your attention to it and you adjust it. It's always good to test run your presentation before you start it. So it's good to join a call early to be sure that your slide works. You're able to share your slide in form rather than in the native PowerPoint slides. Just ensure that everything works. Your audio is good, your background is good for the presentation. Again, it's disrespectful to your audience, so start test running your slides when you're ready time for you to present. I understand that we're in a place where network may fail and other things, but do your best to give the best presentation you can. And when things fail, always it's always a good habit, a good practice to apologize to your audience for anything that fails during your presentation. So what are the things that can go wrong? Trying to read directly for your slides. All that will happen is that the audience will lose focus on your point, on what you are trying to say, and focus on reading along with you what you are reading. So you could always send your slide across to the audience and let them do the reading. It's one about why you should not overload your slide with data. Don't speak too fast. I am somebody that speaks fast, I must confess, but as much as possible, I try to taper it out as much as possible. So the good thing is you speak not too slow and not too fast. Moderate your the speed of your speaking, of your speech. When you speak too fast, you may lose some audience, and when you speak too slow, it may become boring. So moderate it. Don't scream. Screaming again is not a good habit in presentation. Just speak at an appropriate pace. Then, of course, speak within the time allotted to you so that you don't get the moderator to start telling you time up. Okay. It's also a bad habit for you to continue speaking when they've told you back time up. If you are in a situation where they've informed you that time up, just use the next 30 seconds to round up the most important message you want to pass across. As usual, as I've mentioned, connect with your audience. So finally, when you're done with your presentation, I also say you should prepare for after your presentation. So when you're done with your presentation, you've communicated your scientific work with the audience. The next thing is to use the opportunity to network to people who are interested in the work you are doing. Then feel free to share what you've done on your network, be it LinkedIn, your social media pages, telling people what you've done and what you've presented. This is key. This is one of the key things you're going to achieve for your presentation. I've used slides from one of my teachers, Dr. Ike, and one of my mentee, Dr. Aigbenuga, who have presented similar topics in the past. Thank you very much. I hope I have questions from the audience. Thank you. Any question, any comment? Anybody that has made a scientific presentation before? It's always good to have this interaction to learn from others too. Has there been anyone that have made presentation, abstract presentation, poster presentation? What was your experience and all of that? Or question on what I've said? Again, one thing that just came to my mind: if you are given 5 minutes to make presentation, then try to present 5 slides. I prepared my presentation for about 25 slides, so I intended to do 25 to 30 minutes. I think I overstepped the time I allotted to myself. So usually I attempt to have 1 minute per slide. You must have rehearsed to be able to do that. So you don't have to have 50 slides to make your presentation. Like I mentioned, the key things you need to present is what is on the slide. Other things can be on your notes. So are there questions that we need to clarify? I think this is the last presentation or will be taken. Okay, please go ahead. Ellen.
Thank you, sir, for the presentation. It was good.
I can't hear you, please.
Thank you again for the presentation. I've had experience in presenting my work during my defense, and it was quite interesting. So I have a question. Now, suppose there's a call for abstract and a topic is given. Then maybe you have, I can say, about 2 months to prepare for that. If you want to submit your work, you have about 2 months to the date. So how do you go about it? Is it that when you write your master copy should follow the standards, let me say standard protocol in writing a research? You follow all the chapters, chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5. Then you from that your main the main work, you remove the abstract, or how do you go about it in essence? That is all.
We cannot hear you, sir.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I said a great question he asked. When you are to make abstract present submission, the conference organizer or the place where you want to present, usually they give you an instruction of what they expect of you. But as a general rule, it usually contains introduction as key aspect of your introduction, just like we taught you when we were discussing how to write an abstract. So they're going to give you the key things, number of words, the way you are to make your, they will give you a clear description of what you are expected. So once they give you, it's always good to start early rather than start late so that you can prepare your slide. You can ensure that what you are going to submit is the best that you can come up with. So don't wait till the last day to start preparing your slides. Always do it as soon as you see the call, once you have a work that you think you want to communicate across. So the simple answer is that there will be a guideline for you to present to prepare your slide. In some time, sorry, let me just mention this too. Many a times, conference organizers will give you slide background for you to use to prepare your slide. So be it poster or oral presentation, they're going to send you a template that you can now edit to put your content on it. So it's also good to know that. Then for your poster, usually you design your poster also using PowerPoint. Usually it's going to be a single page PowerPoint. All right. I hope that answers your question.
Kind of. Okay. So does it mean that I have to bypass all the protocols involved, like in ethical clearance? What if I need to collect samples from participants, then analyze the
Okay. I
data to
get
have?
your point now. I get your point. Yeah. So sorry for cutting. I think I get your point now. Maybe I didn't get your question clearly earlier. So remember that an abstract is a summary of a work you've done or you are doing. So it is expected that all those things we taught you about seeking ethical approval, seeking ethical approval, following all those protocol process would have been done. It's just you trying to present a summary of the work you've done or a work you are currently doing. If you are currently doing the work, it's expected that you've collected ethical approval, you've done all the other work. You just want to all the other steps we talk about. So it's not like you just from nowhere just put data together and just go present. And a scientific presentation is a summary of a work you are doing or one that you've completed that you want the scientific world to know about. So it's not that you just put something together and say you want to present. Does that answer your question now?
Okay, sir. Okay, another thing is,
I
what if
think you're not satisfied. Please ask the question clearly.
okay, now what if I see a call for submission and I'm interested in that topic?
Yeah.
I've not done research in it, and let me say they have 2 months and I'm interested in it. How do I go about it? Do I need to start or do I need to
Then
start
you need to do the
writing,
work.
doing everything, or I should just ignore it?
So if you see a call for abstracts, okay, this is the way I will answer it. There are 1,001 calls for abstracts that you always see if you look out for it. You only respond to the call for abstract when you have a data that you want to present. You don't see a call for abstract and go and pick information from nowhere just because you want to respond to a call for abstract. So you expect to have done the work. So there are some work you can do in 2 months, like you mentioned. In 2 months and be able to put together some data to present, which I did in one recent conference that I submitted to. Full title now about psychosocial burden of HPV testing. So I went to the databases in writing the manuscript. Then after I'm done with that, that is when I now prepare abstract to submit. So even if you have a call, it doesn't mean that you can respond to all of it if you don't have the data you want to present. It is when you have something you want to communicate that you submit abstract.
Okay, so thank you. Now it's clear. It's clear. I've gotten it
Okay,
now.
yeah.
Thank
I'm
you.
happy that I'm able to address that. Okay. Any other question? Okay, if there are no questions, I'll say that it has been a very engaging period for us with you guys. You guys have been very interactive. We hope our wish is that you're able to make use of this information, and in the next couple of months, we want to start seeing you guys converting the knowledge you've gained over this period to practice. Problem today, and she's not able to join me, but she sends our best wishes to you guys, and wish you all the best. Thank you very much for your time. With that, all the best. All right. So all the classes are recorded on YouTube. This will be added to it. You can always make reference back to it, and also check our other classes on the page. We have classes on quantitative data analysis, qualitative easily explore and learn on your own. I think with this, I will say thanks and bye. I don't know if the coordinator want to say a word or two before we call it. Oh, sorry. Most importantly, let me appreciate our ICT team who have been very much dedicated, and they're always on the call before any of us join, and they ensure that everything works out. Faida, let me especially thank you for being a very helpful person. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Yes,
The coordinator, you want
yes,
to say?
sir.
Okay.
On behalf of the RJC executive and its member, the Central Executive, we want to thank you and your team for taking this time to carry us through this program. We know it was such a short notice, and we're very happy that you had to bring all your team together to teach us, to help us with this program. And we believe that we still have a long way to go with your team, and we know we're going to learn a lot from you people. Thank you very much. Extend our vote of thanks to the other team members for taking us with the session, and also the IT team for helping us with the Zoom, since we did not have a paid Zoom, but that's actually been good with what they have been doing. So thank you very much, sir.